Welcome to the Life Sketches channel. My name is Emily. I'm a beautiful 24-year-old girl, and I'm going through one of the most complicated periods of my life. Even as I tell you this, I feel deep shame and regret. A few months ago, I had everything with Alex. He was my best friend, my greatest love. Even though our relationship wasn't perfect, it was loving. He was a wonderful man who always cared about me and was always there for me. But then everything changed in an instant. I went through something so big. I don't know how I'm going to get over it. Sometimes a moment of weakness can become a secret carried for a lifetime. Now I'm here. I'm telling you this story because I want to get some peace of mind. And maybe you can show me a way out. Do you think there's forgiveness for something like this? And what would you do if you were in my shoes? I'll tell you my story in full, but please, listen to me before you judge. I remember the day I met Alex like it was yesterday. It was my last year of college, one of my busiest semesters. Everything was crashing down on me, and he was like a breath of fresh air. When I first saw him, I was immediately struck by his charismatic and confident demeanor. Alex was someone around whom people naturally gathered and who impressed everyone with his energy. But the most important thing for me was that I felt safe around him. Our relationship started slowly. First, we became friends. He was the first person I felt really understood me. I remember talking for hours in the middle of the night. I lost track of time when I was with him. Everything was so easy and natural. Then one day, something subtly changed in our conversations. When his eyes met mine, they lingered a little longer. When our hands accidentally touched, he didn't pull back, not even for a second. And then, the moment came. When he kissed me for the first time, I felt something inside me click into place. Alex was not only a lover to me, but also my best friend. From that day on, he was with me every moment of my life. At first, everything was perfect. The long car rides we took together, the evenings we spent watching movies over coffee in rainy weather, the hours of deep conversations. Every moment, every second was precious to me. He always made me feel cared for. He was not just my lover, he was my refuge. The time I spent with Alex became more and more meaningful every day. The university was over, and we started to have more serious conversations about the future. He didn't feel like just a boyfriend. He felt like someone I wanted to share my life with. Everything was progressing so naturally that I knew that at some point our relationship would take a bigger step. And that day came. "I want you to know my family," he said one evening. His eyes sparkled with excitement. I knew a lot about Alex's family, but he never gave me much detail. His mother had died years ago, and he had grown up with his father. "You'll love him when you get to know him," she always said about her father. He always told me how important his father was to him, but I had never seen him. Just a few photos, a few old stories. "We should go to Miami together," he said excitedly. "My dad's house is on the beach. We could spend a few days there. He'll get to know you better." Miami, a house by the sea, a hot summer. What could be better? When we left the airport and came to the area near the beach, I saw Alex's childhood home for the first time. It was a stunning mansion, like something out of a fairy tale, on the waterfront, with big glass windows. When the slightly salty wind from the sea hit my skin, I felt an indescribable excitement. And then I saw her. He was standing at the door. Alex's father, Richard. The moment I saw him, a strange warmth spread through me. It was like he drew all the energy out of the room. He was tall, athletically built, charismatic. He had silvery gray hair, hard features, and deep eyes. He looked like Alex, but there was something very different about him. His confidence, his poise, the way he exuded a dignified but impressive energy. And then he walked towards me. "Emily," he said, "we finally meet." Even his tone was mesmerizing. Deep, confident, and expressive, just like him. When he held out his hand, I felt the warmth of his palm. When I looked into his eyes, time stopped for a moment. I realized that for a few seconds I had forgotten how to breathe. I was fighting inside myself. I loved Alex. He was my lover. But why did his father's charisma affect me so much? It was a shameful feeling. It was like something stirred inside me that I had never felt before. As I looked at him, words caught in my throat. There was an uneasiness inside me, but it wasn't uneasiness or fear or discomfort. It was something different. I shouldn't have thought about it, but I did. Every time Richard's eyes met mine, I felt an indescribable warmth inside me. Alex didn't realize anything. He was just excited to introduce me to his father, but a dangerous spark was burning inside my head, and the worst part was, I didn't want to extinguish it. Once inside, Richard gave us a tour of the house. The interior was as impressive as the exterior. It was modern but warm. The big glass walls let the daylight shine in. Everything was perfect. And Richard's presence made everything feel even more intense. When we all sat down together at the table for dinner, I felt strangely tense. Sometimes I felt Richard's eyes on me without realizing it, while Alex gleefully reminisced about his childhood memories. But was it just my imagination? Or had he noticed me too? But was it just my imagination? This question kept echoing inside me throughout that day. If there really was such a thing as chemistry between people, this was it. But there wasn't. I was his son's lover. Throughout the night, I tried to suppress these thoughts. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't silence the feelings echoing inside me. And when morning finally came, Alex turned to me with a smile. "Shall we have breakfast by the sea?" His father joined him, and the three of us set off for breakfast under the sun on the perfect beach in Miami. As the warmth of the sun hit my skin, I felt a strange sense of relief. The golden beach of Miami at my feet, a light breeze caressing my red hair. My green bikini matched my eyes and made my skin look even more tanned. I felt that my tight body, my almost perfect body, looked like a masterpiece. I liked the feeling, but there was a tension inside me that I couldn't describe. Richard. Even though I tried to avert my eyes, I could feel how he was staring at me. I couldn't stop myself. I was staring at him too. At first, I thought his gaze was just a figment of my imagination. But then, I realized that he was looking at me the way I was looking at him. It felt wrong. I knew that. But there was a stirring inside me, an uneasy, strange excitement. I said to myself, forget it. But I couldn't forget it. As Alex was choosing a spot for us on the beach, I involuntarily glanced at Richard out of the corner of my eye. He was looking at me at that very moment. I felt caught, but I didn't run away. I shouldn't have done it, but I did. Alex turned to me, lying in the sun. "Let's go in the water," he said with a smile. The coolness of the water would do me good. I wanted to get out of this mess in my head, so I took Alex's hand and headed towards the sea, and that's when I heard Richard's voice. "I'll join you." I suddenly felt a stirring inside me. Was it excitement or fear? When we were in the water, Alex started to wet me playfully. I laughed. I played back, splashing, laughing. I felt momentarily relieved, but then Richard approached us. As Alex ducked and dived in the water, I locked eyes with Richard. He was watching me. It was a deep, questioning look, but also one that lasted too long. We were playing a game, but the game was different in the water. While Alex was under the water, Richard's hand accidentally touched my breasts. Accidentally? It was a long-lasting contact, and it ignited something inside me. I tried to calm down, but my heart was racing. Then we started a game in the water, water polo. During the game, contact was inevitable. Several times, unintentionally, I felt Richard touching me. It seemed to last a little longer on purpose. The places where he touched me in the water and the duration of these touches made me feel very uncomfortable and strangely. An alarm was going off inside me. This was not right, but there was a strange attraction in that wrongness. By the time we got home from the beach, I was sick to my stomach. The way Richard looked at me, the unintentional contact in the water. I wanted to get rid of these feelings. Alex was my lover, my future. When I was with him, my life was going well. But why? Why was my heart beating so fast around Richard? I took a deep breath and tried to silence my thoughts. It was just a moment. I was just mesmerized, that's all. When we walked in, Alex approached me with a smile. "It was fun today, wasn't it?" he said, his eyes shining with happiness. I was nervous. I smiled, but something was bothering me. I was about to tell her that I wanted to go back, but she spoke before me. Emily, I have something to tell you. Don't misunderstand me, okay? I hesitated for a moment. What happened? I asked worriedly. Alex scratched his head slightly. You know I grew up here. My old friends had a surprise. It's been a long time since I've seen them. Do you mind if I go out and spend some time with them tonight? What he said was normal. After all, it was natural for him to want to see his childhood friends. But he had brought me all that distance to meet his father, and now he was going to leave me here and go have fun with his friends. Why couldn't he take me? Sometimes I couldn't help but think, what an inconsiderate man Alex is being. And yet he wouldn't be here. It would be just me and Richard. The moment I realized that, I felt a chill. I looked into Alex's eyes. Sure, no problem, I said with a fake smile, because I was annoyed. What friends were you going to see that you couldn't get up and take me to? He breathed a sigh of relief and took my hand. I know it sounds silly, but I really missed them. I may be back late tonight, so don't wait up for me, but I promise that first thing in the morning, you and I will enjoy the Miami alone. I nodded, but I had a strange feeling. What was it that I felt when I found out that Alex wouldn't be with me until the morning? Was it fear, or excitement, or ridiculous jealousy? I went to the room and tried to pull myself together. The clock was ticking, and I was about to have dinner alone with Richard, and the thought made me more uneasy than ever. But at the same time, deep down, as much as I feared what tonight would bring, maybe I wanted it. It was getting close to dinner time. Alex was gone. It was just me and Richard, and I felt a strange uneasiness. Was there really something I should be so worried about? After all, he was my girlfriend's father. What could be more normal than having dinner together? But no matter how many times I repeated this thought to myself, I kept feeling a tightening in my heart. The house was glowing in the golden light of the sunset. When I looked out the window, the red color of the sun disappearing over the horizon reflected in the sea was mesmerizing. It was just me and Richard, and I felt a strange uneasiness. Was there really something I should be so worried about? After all, he was my girlfriend's father. What could be more normal than having dinner together? But no matter how many times I repeated this thought to myself, I kept feeling a tightening in my heart. The house was glowing in the golden light of the sunset. When I looked out the window, the red color of the sun disappearing over the horizon reflected in the sea was mesmerizing. Our table was on the veranda, right by the sea. A light breeze added a pleasant coolness to the air. The ambiance seemed to be in itself romantic, but it was the wrong kind of romantic. Richard handed me a drink, in his usual charismatic, confident manner. Does it bother you that Alex is leaving? He asked. His voice was so deep and powerful that every word seemed to echo through me. I recovered quickly, averted my eyes and smiled. No, not really. Of course it's a bit weird, but it's normal to want to see your childhood friends. Richard tilted his head to the side and smiled slightly. Alex can be too impulsive sometimes, but I guess that's just the nature of being young. The nature of being young? I looked at him. He was leaning back comfortably, holding his fork in his hand. His strong posture, his confidence reflected in his every move. I knew he wasn't young, but at the same time, there was an attraction that his age gave him. It's good to be young, I said, smiling. Richard's eyes shifted to me. Yes, it is beautiful. Not all young people have your beauty, and it fades with time. There was a moment of silence. Then I realized that his eyes were lingering on mine. A strange warmth filled me. I had to stop this. I was Alex's lover. Alex. So I tried to change the subject. What do you think Alex's future will be like? What do you think of him? Richard sipped his drink slowly, not taking his eyes off me. He smiled as if he knew I was going to ask this question. Alex is a good kid, smart, ambitious, but sometimes he looks at life through rose-colored glasses. It's not always easy to see reality, especially when you're young. I felt his eyes on me again as I tried to analyze the subtext of his sentence. And you, Emily? He said suddenly. My eyes widened. Me? What do you want? What do you think about your future? I hesitated for a moment, not knowing how to answer this question. I wanted a future with Alex, didn't I? To be happy with him, maybe get married. But right now, here, at this table, in front of this man, why was it hard to even think about my future? An involuntary smile formed on my face. I don't know. I guess time will tell. Time doesn't tell everything, Emily. Sometimes you realize what you want right away, but sometimes, by the time you realize it, it's too late. His gaze remained fixed on me as I tried to decipher the meaning of this sentence. He was looking deep into my eyes. As soon as I felt it, I involuntarily clenched my hand on the table. This is wrong. This is so wrong. But Richard's eyes, his voice, his words, they drew me in. What I realized that night sitting at the table with Richard was this: some feelings cannot be silenced by logic, and I began to get lost in them. The clock was ticking. The meal at the table was long over, but we were still sitting, the wine glasses filling up, a warming relaxation spreading with each sip. Richard's voice filled my ears like a melody. I couldn't even remember exactly what he was saying, but it was nice to listen. The tone of his voice, the soft pauses between words. I looked at the clock. Alex still hadn't arrived. "When is that boy coming back?" I muttered, not bothering to hide my irritation. Richard smiled slightly and shrugged his shoulders. "Forget about Alex," he said. "Let's enjoy the moment. Savor the moment." Something stirred inside me, but I couldn't think that much anymore. The more I drank, the more my thoughts blurred. My anger and all the forbidden thoughts that had been gnawing at my mind were buried in a fog. Richard looked at me sideways. "I think the drink has cheered you up a bit, Emily." I blinked at him, smiling slightly. "Cheered up or just relaxed?" "Relaxed is good," he said in his deep voice. "You were talking about your youth," he said sarcastically. "Come on, let's see how young you really are. How about going to the sea?" I raised my eyebrows in surprise. "Right now? At this hour?" Richard took another sip from his glass. "You should know how to enjoy the night, Emily." I looked out to sea. The beach was empty. The slight chill from the waves gave the night a different feel. "Are you shy?" he continued. I stood up, smiling with the comfort of alcohol. "Don't challenge me, Richard. You'll lose." He smiled back and stood up. I picked up my glass and we started walking towards the sea. Alex wasn't with me. Instead, his father was. As we got closer to the waves, Richard's shadow blended into mine. I still held my glass in my hand. Neither of us put our drinks down as we went into the sea. And strangely, nothing felt wrong. Just then, Richard tilted his head slightly and looked at me with a smile. "Being young, Emily, that's exactly what it's like." At the edge of the sea, the moonlight cast a silver sheen on the surface of the water. I felt a chill as the gentle breeze hit my skin, but the warmth still lingered inside me. I was relaxed by the wine, my thoughts drifting away like a fuzzy dream. Richard raised his glass, gazed into my eyes, and suddenly drained the wine in one gulp and threw it quickly onto the beach. "Come on," he said. And with that confident smile on his face, reminiscent of a young man's challenge, he took off his clothes without a care in the world. I blinked in surprise. "What happened, Emily?" he said, giving me a mocking look. "I'm still here." And then, without much thought, he threw himself into the water. My eyes widened. Did he realize what he was doing? But then the wine, the magic of the night, his fearless energy, it all ignited something inside me. I shook my head from side to side with an evasive smile. "Okay, Mr. Impatient, you win." I took a few steps back and let the thin dress slide off my shoulders and fall to the floor. I was completely naked with no clothes left on. As the gentle sea breeze touched my skin, a strange sense of freedom rose in me. I felt Richard admiring my completely naked body in the water. But I didn't think too much. I took a deep breath and let myself go. The water was cool, but I could still feel the warmth of the alcohol inside me. At first, I just swam. I wanted to melt into the waves and feel free. Richard was a few meters away from me. He seemed to be in a good mood too. "Not a bad swim, Emily," he said from the water. There was a slight challenge in his voice. "I'm not as good as you, but I guess I'm still young." We kept swimming. Time seemed to disappear. It was just the two of us in the middle of the sea, under the moonlight. But then a moment came. I started to feel dizzy. I slowed down, suddenly feeling a strange emptiness in my stomach. "I think I had a little too much wine," I mumbled, pausing slightly. Richard came rushing out of the water towards me. "Emily?" I felt my arms feel heavy in the water, the waves gently rocking my body. Then I felt Richard's hands around my arms. "Are you okay?" Richard's strong arms wrapped around me. This moment lasted too long. My heart sped up. Was this wrong? But I had a feeling there was no going back. I felt dizzy as the water enveloped my body, a heat inside me that competed with the waves. Richard's arms were still around me, his hands gripping my hips tightly. He was holding me, but there was something else. We could hardly breathe. I could feel his hot breath on my face, his gaze as deep as the silence of the night. Was it the alcohol? My anger at Alex? Richard's spell on me? I don't know. But at that moment, I stopped thinking. I just felt. And I couldn't help the burning sensation growing inside me. A moment of madness. I raised my head, met his eyes, and I pressed my lips to hers. It was a very powerful and passionate moment. Richard's strong arms pulled me to him. When his lips grasped mine, my world went completely silent. The water no longer carried us. In Richard's arms, I was floating on clouds, not in the water. A forbidden fire flared in the water. As my hands slid to his chest, all the voices screaming inside me fell silent. I was lost in this moment. Our breaths mingled. I felt Richard's fingers tremble as his palms enveloped my body. Was this a mistake? But in that moment, I didn't care about anything. Had hours passed or minutes? When I came to, I was out of breath. The water was still on my skin, but it felt much heavier now. My eyes fell on Richard. He was looking at me too. Was there regret in his eyes? Or something else? But I, with lightning flashing in my heart, now knew the truth. It wasn't a mistake, but that wasn't true either. Homecoming silent regret. Without saying a word, we both walked towards the beach, the drops of water still falling on us. The storm inside me was competing with the violence of the waves. Alex, how could I look him in the face? How could I forget this night? Under the shower, as my eyes closed, not even the warmth of the water could quench the steam inside me. It had all happened so fast, so intense, and now there was no going back. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. What was I supposed to do? Was it the alcohol? Or was I under Richard's spell? Maybe I had misplaced my anger at Alex. But what if it wasn't? Did Richard regret it too? Would he want to do it again? Could I leave Alex and be with him? Should I forget this night? Or was this story just beginning? What would you have done? Are these feelings real or just the effects of alcohol? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Just pressing a button means a lot to us.